Hello everyone. Today we'll talk about communicating impactfully. Whenever we communicate, we are creating an impact on others. And the stronger is impact, the more is the probability of the person getting influenced by you or remembering you. So let us see that what are the things that are required in order to make an impact with your communication. But before we see all those things, let us talk that why is communication so important? One point here is that it helps you to express yourself. Without good communication skills, you cannot express yourself effectively. Secondly, it makes you feel confident. The better your communication skills are, the more confident you feel. Then it also helps you to create strong relationships in every aspect of your life, whether it is your personal relationships, whether it is your work. It always helps you to create strong relationships with good communication skills, and it also helps you to get rid of miscommunication problems and misunderstandings. Most of the misunderstandings in life are caused due to ineffective communication. It also helps you to stand ahead of others in the competitive world. Today, the world is so competitive that you always need to be a step ahead, and communication is one thing which helps you to keep yourself ahead. Most of the jobs today are based on effective communication. If you are not a good communicator, it is really difficult to survive in any kind of jobs. Today, most of the jobs require at least 70% of your time to be spent only in communication, whether it is verbal or written. There are jobs where 70% of work is based only and only on emails. An email is obviously a part of written communication. So now that we have seen why is communication so important, let us see what exactly is communication. How does this process of communication work? I'm sure you all have heard of this many a times before, but it is really important to apply this in your practical life. So let us see the theoretical part, and then we will do a lot of exercises to make sure that you're able to apply this. So the communication starts with the sender who formulates a message, and this message is delivered through a channel, and through the channel this message is received by a receiver. This receiver interprets the message and sends a feedback to the sender. The problem here is that most of us do not send this feedback, which in turn leads to miscommunication. How does that happen? I'll tell you. When a sender has formulated a message, he has got a certain context in mind, a certain perception in mind, and this message is delivered to the receiver who interprets this message. Now, while the receiver is interpreting the message, there are chances that his context of understanding and his perception is different from what the sender intended to tell him. That is why it is necessary for the receiver to send the feedback to the sender in order to tell him that what has the receiver interpreted. Once the sender receives, he is able to tally that whether the message I intended to send has been received correctly by the receiver or not. In case there are some differences, that can be sorted out only when the sender is aware that the sent message is not the same as the interpreted message by the receiver. That is why it is really important that we send the feedback to the sender. The communication process gets complete only with the feedback. If the feedback is not given, there are a lot of chances for misinterpretation leading to misunderstandings. Now, whenever we start communicating, whenever I'm formulating the message, it is important that I take some time and talk to myself. That is, why am I communicating? What is the goal of communication? Take a moment to think, what are you trying to accomplish? Think about your goal. The more specific you are, the more focused your communication will be. You have to ask yourself that, are you trying to inform your audience? Are you trying to persuade them? Or do you want to motivate your audience to take an action, such as retain our services? That's just an example. The more specifically you define your communication goal, the easier it will be to achieve. We all communicate basically for three reasons: either to inform, or to persuade the audience, or to motivate them. Now, before communicating, if I am clear about the goal, then my message can be formulated accordingly. Because when you're informing, your way of communicating will be different. When you are motivating them to take an action, then of course the message will differ. Or if you're trying to persuade someone, then again your message will differ. So if we are clear about the goal, we will be able to communicate better. That is the first key to make sure that your communication will be impactful. Second tip here is effective listening. Until and unless you are a good listener, the communication process is not complete. When a sender is sending a message to the receiver and when the receiver is sending the feedback to the sender, it is important for both of them to be good listeners. In order to be an effective listener, you need to do certain things. First, do not interrupt the speaker. When one person is speaking, it is important that the other does not interrupt him in between. Sit still. It could be sit still or stand still. Your posture should not be distracting, or you should not get distracted. So it is important that we are standing or sitting straight while we are listening. Repeat instruction and ask appropriate question when the speaker has finished. It is important to listen carefully, and once the speaker has stopped, we should try and repeat the instruction to make sure of the understanding, and in case we have not understood something, we should ask appropriate questions, but only when the speaker has finished. A good listener knows that being attentive to what the speaker doesn't say is as important as being attentive to what he does say. If you are really listening to understand, you will find out that what are things which the speaker did not say and what is the significance. It is really important at times to understand the unsaid things. The unfortunate fact here is that most of us listen only to respond. The moment we start listening to understand, listening becomes effective and we become active listeners, which helps us to communicate impactfully. Barriers to listening. There are some barriers which do not let us listen actively. First is bias or prejudice. If we have certain pre-assumptions or negative thoughts in our mind about the speaker, we will not be able to really listen what he's trying to say, because our pre-assumptions about him are acting as a barrier. They are acting as a wall to our understanding. Language differences or accents. there are times when the speaker is speaking in a different language or in a different accent. If we are not able to understand, it is always good to let the speaker know that this language you are not comfortable with. Noise. And two people are talking and there is noise in the background, it always is a barrier. Then there are negative emotions like worry, fear, or anger. Whenever we have these negative emotions in our mind, then our mind is completely preoccupied with these things, which again acts as a barrier to our listening. We will not be able to listen what the speaker is trying to say because we are already preoccupied, we are already distracted towards our worry, fear, or anger. And the last and the foremost point is lack of attention. When you are not giving your complete intent attention to the speaker, then you will not be able to listen effectively. And our distraction then acts as a barrier. Now, it is important to be aware that what are your barriers to listening in a particular situation. And once you are aware, for example, there is a situation where you are angry or you are worried and someone is speaking. So if you are able to be aware that your worry is not letting you listen effectively, then it becomes simple for you to make sure that your mind is not preoccupied with worries. But it is important first that you get aware of the fact. You accept the fact that yes, you are getting distracted or you are having negative emotions in your mind. So first we get rid of them and then we communicate, which helps us to listen effectively and make our communication all the more impactful. Now this is the time that you introspect yourself, that what are your barriers to listening as an individual. I'll leave you all with this as of now, and we will continue with more things to be taken care of in order to communicate impactfully in the next session. As of now, please make sure that you introspect and find out your barriers to listening and try to be an effective listener wherever you communicate next. That may be in a couple of minutes also. Thank you.